What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. Today we will be covering the injury report for Week 16 as well as our Sunday morning games. To kick it off, we have the Packers at the Panthers. The Packers are actually pretty banged up. Luke Musgrave will again miss with that kidney injury. Christian Watson will as well with the hamstring. And questionable is A.J. Dillon with a thumb, Jaden Reed toe/chest, and Dontavion Wicks with an ankle. So they do have a fair amount of injuries on the offensive end. The Panthers have no notable injuries on the offensive side. Going to the Colts and Falcons, Zach Moss is questionable with the forearm, and they have Michael Pittman questionable with a shoulder. Okay.
He'll be playing.
Michael Pittman's playing?
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay. Again, injuries can look a lot worse than they actually are, and I'm happy for him. On the Falcons side of the ball, they have no notable injuries on the offensive side. Going to the Browns at Texans, the Browns have no notable injuries other than Joel Bitonio, who is a very good offensive guard. He is questionable. For the Texans, CJ Stroud is out with that concussion, so it will be Case Keenum yet again. And Nico Collins is questionable with that calf injury. The Lions at the Vikings. For the Lions, Brock Wright will miss, so that just could mean even more Sam Laporta this week, but that's it for the Lions. And for the Vikings, Alexander Madison is still questionable with that ankle injury. For the Commanders at Jets, Brian Robinson will again miss with that hamstring injury, so Antonio Gibson will be the lead back. For the Jets, Zach Wilson is out with a concussion. I don't know why they still have Aaron Rodgers listed as out with the Achilles. That's obvious. But that is it for that game. The Seahawks at the
Did you see
time.
they cut someone else to make room for
Yeah,
him on the 53-man roster? Yeah.
unbelievable. It's the Jets are going to jet. But for the Seahawks and the Titans, Ken Walker is questionable with this shoulder injury. And for the Titans, gosh, they have a lot of people on this report, but no one notable other than Will Levis is questionable with the ankle injury and Chigi Okonkwo with an illness. The Jaguars at the Buccaneers. The Jaguars, Zay Jones is yet again questionable with the knee/hamstring, as well as Trevor Lawrence with the ankle injury and also the concussion. For the Bucs, they have no notable names. The Cardinals at the Bears, Hollywood will miss with that heel injury, and Greg Dortch is questionable with a shoulder injury. On the Bears side of the ball, Equanimeous St. Brown will miss with a pectoral injury, and Deontay Foreman is questionable with not injury related but a personal matter. And Cole Kmet with a quadricep injury is also questionable. Cowboys at the Dolphins. The Cowboys have no notable injuries. They have some offensive linemen that are questionable, but that is what it is. For the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill is still questionable with that ankle injury, but I cannot imagine him missing this one because they will need him.
Not this game.
Yeah. The Patriots at the Broncos. Juju is out with the ankle injury, and Mondre also with an ankle injury. Hunter Henry's questionable with a knee, and that is it on that side of the ball. And the Broncos have no one notable. Greg Dulcich, who's been out the whole season basically, is also out for this one. That's nothing new. And for the Monday games, I mean, they have estimates, but we are recording this on Friday night. I'm not going to get into those because it's a little too early to tell some of those guys. You know, their injury statuses can change, so I will not dive into those. But with that being said, I believe Schiff is ready to get it going with our first Sunday morning game.
Yeah, and that'll be the Colts heading into Atlanta to take on the Falcons. We talked about Michael Pittman being very likely back in this one. He is apparently dealing with a shoulder injury that is the real thing. He did clear concussion protocol, though. So the report from 12 hours ago is that he cleared concussion protocol and that he will play. And then 3 hours later, they said he has a shoulder injury, actually questionable. I think he'll probably play in this one. The Colts are very much going to need him. and since he cleared concussion protocol, I mean, he got back up and walked off the field. He's a pretty tough guy, I think,
Yeah.
in football this summer. They will also have Jonathan Taylor back. So the reign of Zach Moss, in which he did nothing this second time around, will have ended
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah.
So it was disappointing, but it's over now. Anyways, getting into the Colts side of the ball, they are scoring 24.6 points per game, which is eighth in the league, passing for 224.9 per game, and running the ball for 114.7 yards. So, I mean, obviously it changes a lot having Jonathan Taylor back. We didn't see them have too much success. And I mean, the one game in which Zach Moss probably would have had a great game, he gets hurt after he gets a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that one, it really did suck because, I mean, we saw the backups come in and absolutely go crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Jonathan Taylor back, that changes everything. I want to say he's a good start in this one. The
Mhm.
Falcons rush defense, giving up 112.2 per game. Um, I think they, you know, held off on getting Jonathan Taylor back out there so they could use him in this part of the season. They could very well win that. They're tied for first place in that division. So
Mhm.
this is obviously a very big game for them. I think they'll be using all their guys. I think Taylor's a good start. Pittman's a good start. And that's probably about it.
Yeah,
I
we
don't know
can't
if I'd trust
trust Downs.
you. No, you can't really trust Minshew. You
Yeah.
can't trust Downs. If Michael Pittman were to, for some reason, end up missing this game due to that shoulder injury, not for some reason, um, then I think Downs becomes more of a start,
Yeah.
but more of a pivot at least if you don't have any better options. But it should be noted that the Falcons are only giving up 199.5 yards per game through the air. So it's not like that is the best defense that you want to start your your wide receiver 4 flex type guy against.
Yeah.
But that's really all, unless you want to throw Matt Gay back out there.
Absolutely I do. Absolutely I do. Are you kidding me? I'm throwing him out. Of course we are.
There we go. And then, but yeah, not starting Minshew talked about how well they do against the pass. And that's really all for the Colts side of the ball. Heading into the Falcons side, well, we saw them score 7 points against the Panthers last week, with that only touchdown going to Cordarrelle Patterson. So it was a bad day for most people starting any Falcons, namely Bijan Robinson scored less than a whole point.
Mm.
So in the semifinals, that was very likely something that killed you. If
Yeah.
you somehow made it beyond that round and still have the choice of whether or not to start Bijan this week, I mean, I'd like to say yes. The Colts are not good against the run either. They're giving up 127.4 yards on the ground per game. Carolina was terrible against the run. At this point, it's just a matter of what Arthur Smith is going to decide to do. Because, I mean, Bijan fumbled and in his small amount of carries, didn't necessarily do too great. But the thing is, you got to get a guy going. You can't just. It's like, most machines. You can't just cold start something and expect it to run well.
Yeah.
Like, you have to prime it, get it warmed up.
Yeah.
Same with like any a running back. They like what we saw with Kyron Williams in the game, not this previous Thursday game, but the one in the last week. He fumbled twice. They still went back to him. He gets over 100 yards. They win the game. You got to trust your guys. And I don't know what Arthur Smith is deciding to do. It makes it a lot harder. I'd like to say if you've made it this far, go ahead and throw Bijan out there. But we
Yeah.
very well saw they are very willing to use Cordarrelle Patterson and Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
That being said, I think you start Bijan, but just know what can happen.
Mhm.
And I mean, kind of sitting in the same boat. with him as we are with Eckler this week, because it's two guys that really burned us.
Yeah.
But for a lack of better options, I think you might end up having to start Bijan. We kind of get into the same situation when we talk about Kyle Pitts and Drake London. We know how good they are at football, but we don't necessarily know if they're going to be used like that. I think Drake London is more trustable because last week the Panthers don't give up much against the pass. They're very vulnerable against the run, which most teams use that against them. Falcons just weren't able to do anything in general on offense against the
No.
Carolina Panthers, which was very concerning. But the Colts defense has not been the greatest this year. So, I mean, I think you can start London. I think he's like a flex-worthy option.
Yeah.
Um, Pitts and Smith, I don't know.
Nah.
I'd probably prefer a better option if you have that. And then Young Waku, hell, man. I mean, if they could get into range to score, then sure,
That's
he's
the
good. But
scary
if not,
part.
then
That's the
yeah.
scary part. But it is Heineke, right? Ritter's on the bench again. It's Heineke time
Yeah,
again.
it's Heineke, but I mean, it's the same offensive play calling.
Scheme. Yeah, it's the same scheme.
Mm, So
Yeah.
that's really all I got for that one. We'll see how that one goes down. But yeah.
All right. I mean, before I get in my first game, I want to give a random shout out. How much you heard about AJ Terrell this season? And unless you're a cornerback that plays for like the Cowboys that they always talk about, it's a good thing if you're not talked about as a corner. Shout out AJ Terrell. We talk about the Falcons have a good pass defense. He's the one leading it. Shout out AJ Terrell. That'll get me to my first game, the Browns at the Texans. This one should, again, be an interesting one. The Texans' defense is pretty horrid against the pass. They're 25th in the league, giving up 239 yards a game. They're very solid against the run, only giving up 93.5. Again, it will be a Joe Flacco-led Browns team that is very well in the playoff hunt, and this is a huge game, honestly, for both teams. I don't necessarily, obviously it's the championship. I'm not starting Joe Flacco, but Jerome Ford, I do like rolling out there. I think even if he doesn't have success on the ground, we're still hoping, for some targets out of the backfield. I do feel comfortable, if you've been rolling Jerome Ford, he doesn't go off in many games, but he also doesn't completely burn us in many games either. I think he's a solid play that can get you, 10 to 15 fantasy points, and that's what he's been doing all season, so you should be fine with that. I like starting Amari Cooper. Joe Flacco is airing the ball out like crazy, and Amari Cooper is one of his favorite targets. So I do like the Amari Cooper start. And the only other guy I really like starting, David Njoku. Did you see that report that he stubbed his toe before last week's game? He stubbed his toe at home. Again at home. At his
Man, he needs to
house.
move.
Stubbed his toe, and it required stitches. That he stubbed his toe Thursday, got stitches Friday, and then had that massive week on Sunday.
Oh,
David Njoku is a dog. An absolute breakout season for him. I do love the David Njoku start. And then we go to the Texans side of the ball, where again, it's Case Keenum. And I know he had some success last week. This is a very good Browns defense. A very, top of the line defense in the entire league. And Nico Collins is questionable with that calf, which he hurt, and he only played 5% of snaps 2 weeks ago, missed last week. Now he's questionable to come back. This is a must-win game. I think Devin Singletary is going to get volume. I don't know how efficient that volume is going to be. This is one of those games I don't necessarily know how it's going to go for the Texans. Because Case Keenum had a solid week. Can we expect that again from him? I really don't know. If it was CJ Stroud, I would feel a lot more comfortable with their capabilities. But again, I think Singletary falls in the same thing as a Jerome Ford, especially after last week where Dameon Pierce played 5% of snaps. It's not a competition there. Devin Singletary was going to be the bell cow back. If he's not able to get it done on the ground, maybe he can rush in for a 2-yard touchdown. He can get a couple catches out the backfield. Again, he should be able to get you around 10 fantasy points. I like Jerome Ford a bit more than Devin Singletary in this matchup, but not by that much. I don't know how to feel about Nico Collins. It's.
I mean, if since CJ Stroud's playing, you don't feel good, and you can't play him.
I know. No, again, when I covered him last week, I was like, Noah Brown. I don't know if I can trust it. He had a massive week. This is the Browns, though. They have a amazing secondary. They have Denzel Ward, Newsome, Martin Emerson. They have dogs back there. In the championship, if you advance there without Nico Collins, roll your option. That got you there without Nico Collins. It's not worth the risk without CJ Stroud. And I kind of feel the same way about Schultz. Like, if you have a better pivot, go to it. If you don't, I think Schultz should get decent targets. And obviously tight ends don't produce like receivers normally, so I don't absolutely hate that play, but I'm staying away from a lot of Texans if it's not Devin Singletary, and I do like the Browns' defense in this one. Fairbairn's been very good. I genuinely don't know how many points I can expect the Texans to score in this one. I really don't.
All right, guys, as you can see, the camera view is a little bit different. The audio probably sounds a little bit different. We ran into some Wi-Fi issues, so I started recording on my phone, but still got to get the episode out for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You already know. So here we go. Going to take you right into the Lions heading into Minnesota to play the Vikings. The Lions offense scoring 27.3 points per game, which is 5th in the league, passing for 253.3.5 yards per game. My apologies. Which is 4th in the league, and rushing for 140.9, which is 2nd in the league.
Jeez.
So they're putting up top numbers across the board, and we've been seeing the results of that in the fantasy aspect. Amon-Ra has been doing great. David Montgomery, even though Jahmyr Gibbs has been blowing up, has still been putting up double-digit weeks, which, I mean, we like to see. So all in all, I feel like the guys we've been starting are the guys that we are going to continue to start this week. If you were rolling Jared Goff, I don't see a reason why you would turn away from him this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an obvious every week starter, despite, the stinker he had a couple games ago. Who the hell cares?
Yeah.
Same with Sam Laporta at this point, and your Lions running backs. I mean, throwing both of them back out there. Not going with the Lions defense. If you wanted a little bit of insight, they're giving up 23.6 points per game, giving up 225 yards through the air, which is 18th in. It's still very solid against the run, top 10, only giving up 95.9 on the ground. But they're giving up quite a few points per game. So if they don't get turnovers, it doesn't really equal out.
Yeah.
And the Vikings, especially, Nick Mullins, in that last game, they weren't too bad. He passed for over 3 yards over 300, but still over 300 yards.
Yeah.
And, I think it should be a pretty good game. We've seen the Lions struggle against divisional opponents for some reason.
The Bears.
Really struggle against them, and the Packers.
Yeah, forgot about that.
They struggled against the Packers, too. They struggled in both games against the Bears, ended up losing one of them, lost their most recent one to the Packers. So I'm not expecting the Lions to just walk all over the Vikings in this one. Justin Jefferson is going to be a full go. Ty Chandler looks like he is the running back to trust, despite the Lions being very good against the run. I mean, if you used him last week and he got you to the championship, I think he might be a decently safe bet.
I agree.
Now, the Cincinnati Bengals defense has been very poor against the run, so I wouldn't necessarily compare the two. But, I mean, I think he should still get some work in the pass game as well. But he just got all of the volume on the ground last week, so. Yeah, obviously Justin Jefferson, he's playing. He's starting. Jordan Addison, just start him. Don't even think about it. TJ Hawkinson, probably the same thing. Now, my question in this game, what do you think about, we talked about being quarterback needy. If now we know for sure CJ Stroud's not going to go. It's very much looking like Trevor Lawrence isn't going to go. How do you feel about Nick Mullins? The Lions giving up, about 24 points per game and 225 yards through the air. How do you feel about Nick Mullins?
I for sure am considering him. Like, I'd rather play like Joe Flacco if I have the option. Like, I would rather go at Joe Flacco. But no, Nick Mullins has been capable. He's been very capable. But he is one kind of like a Case Keenum, where I'm just like, he had a solid game. The Lions aren't the greatest against the pass, but Nick Mullins is like a career backup. So I'm like, it's one of those. If you have the balls to play Nick Mullins in a championship game and he goes crazy for you, that's how you win championships, though. I will give you that. That's how you win them.
Very true, but I mean, we are down to if you don't have, because I mean, for example, like in Sevens League, I had Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud.
You have both of them? Yeah. That is terrible. That is terrible luck. I'm just looking really quick at the quarterbacks.
I picked up Jake Browning, but Jake Browning doesn't have Jamar Chase. So do you like Jake Browning without Jamar Chase or Nick Mullins with a healthy Justin Jefferson?
And the Bengals are playing the Steelers?
The Bengals are playing the Steelers.
Wow. Nick Mullins had 19 fantasy points. Honestly, maybe Jake Browning, only because they're playing Mason Rudolph and the Steelers. The Lions, they've struggled in these division games. This needs to be a game that the Lions win. Like, they really need this one.
Now, I 100% agree with you on that one.
I don't hate the Nick Mullins start. I do not, by any means. But no, I mean, again, yeah, he scored 19 last week against Cincy. He should, I mean, I don't think he will, like, burn you. I think he's a solid play, especially if you have, like, Jordan Addison, Hawkinson, or Jettas, which all three of those guys you could be in the championship with. I like it even more. If you can get that stack, absolutely. Like, I'm not against the Nick Mullins start.
It's disgusting that this is what we're talking about in championship weekend.
This is where we're at.
Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback injuries.
Yeah.
But, yeah, with that, I mean, if he's one of your options, we don't think he's a bad one. But, yeah, it's kind of your call. These divisional matchups are very tough to gauge from an outside. Like, we don't know how they're going to go. We really don't. We don't know if it's going to be a low-scoring affair. Like, I always bring up the Ravens because I watch every Ravens game, and that's an easy example for me to use. But the second time they played the Browns, there's like 70 points scored in that game. There's just times we don't know if it's going to be a barn burner or if there's going to be 20 total points.
Yeah.
Because those divisions, they play each other so often. It all depends on who shows up. The schemes don't really, they already have that figured out about each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see how this one goes, man. But like I said, I'm rolling my Minnesota guys that have gotten me up to this point.
Yeah. But that's all you had for that one?
Yeah.
Well, I got kind of an ugly one. The Commanders at the Jets. The Jets' defense is second in the NFL against the pass. They're terrible against the run, but the Commanders will not have Brian Robinson, and Antonio Gibson does not pose too much of a threat on the ground from what we have seen. Here's the scary part. Sam Howell just got benched and had a god-awful game against the Rams. Now they're playing the
That
Jets.
happened.
The Jets' pass defense is very,
Elite.
very good. Like top 3 in the NFL. I mean, they're second right now. They are elite.
Yeah.
And then we start talking like, how much do we trust Sam Howell this week? If we somehow made it past the semis rolling him and got to the championship, do we throw him out there again?
Since we're asking disgusting questions right now, in our Dynasty League, we're in the semifinals right now. And
Oh, God, I know what you're going to ask.
my backup options, I believe, are Sam Howell and who's the third one? I don't think can't remember who the third is though. But Sam Howell, Vito.
I feel okay. I feel like it has to be Sam Howell because the Sam Howell upside is still there.
But look at how much Tommy DeVito has been running the football.
Yeah, that's the thing. That is the thing. It very well could be Tommy DeVito. Like, I'm not.
That's what. But it is what concerns me about Sam. I worry that they're not going to score, and he might have 2 or 3 interceptions.
Yeah, this is
4 or 5 points. That's what concerns me with Sam Howell this week.
This is a scary week to start Sam Howell because there are, in my opinion, some safer options: a Nick Mullins, a Joe Flacco, a Jake Browning, guys that we know will at least pass with success, and they're also playing a much easier defense than Sam Howell is now facing. So my take is going to be to pivot from Sam Howell if you have the option. If you're still all in on Sam Howell, and maybe you have Terry McLaurin or something, roll with Sam Howell and hope that he has a great game. But it is concerning with how last week went. Ron Rivera trying to protect my quarterback, but Jacoby Brissett brings it back, and it becomes a winnable game. So it is scary. And we have, probably more than other podcasts, we have rode for Sam Howell through the season because he has performed, and he deserves it. So that's a proceed with caution. Antonio Gibson, I do not like throwing out there this week. We saw him last week. I thought he was going to have not a monster game. I thought he was going to be more involved. He still didn't crack 50% of the snaps. He's still not getting that many carries. His receptions out of the backfield were less than I would have hoped for. He didn't have a terrible game, but we have seen Brian Robinson's gone. That just means Chris Rodriguez is going to get an awkward amount of snaps. So in the championship,
he's their downhill guy.
Yeah, in the championship, I cannot advise you to throw in Antonio Gibson with all the chips on the table. That's a bit of a scary one. And then I get to Scary Terry, who I didn't like last week. I'm just being honest. I said I don't know if I can trust any of these receivers because it gets spread around so much. Scary Terry has like his best week of the season. He goes crazy in the semis after like 4 consecutive weeks of single digits.
Yeah, I don't know how. I can't really take too many victory laps on that one because I was saved by the fact that they threw Jacoby Brissett out there. Had they not done that, I don't know if he would have had that kind of finish. But I mean, I guess we take him when we can, right?
No, we do, but I'm going to double down on it. I don't know if I can trust the Scary Terry start. I don't know if we can rely on Jacoby Brissett to come in and save the day.
Well, even if this is the Jets we're talking about.
Exactly. And the Jets, it's crazy to say without Zach Wilson, but Trevor Siemian is worse than Zach Wilson. This is even worse than a Zach Wilson Jets. So this Jets team, against one of the worst defenses in the NFL, still might struggle to score the ball. Like we could.
I think it'll be a lot of runs and dump offs. Short game and which Washington's just so bad that it might just
work.
work.
Yeah. So I mean, again, if you have the option, if you have another viable option, if you have just throw a name out, like a Deontay Johnson, if you're between him and Scary Terry, I do like Deontay more. He's going against Cincinnati. We went through the stats with Mason Rudolph in our previous episode. They weren't bad. I think it's a safer bet. But again, if you want to roll Scary Terry.
Wait, what'd you just say?
We went through the stats of Deontay Johnson and Mason Rudolph in our previous
Okay,
episode.
I thought you said with Scary Terry and Mason Rudolph.
I may have misspoke. I totally might have.
You're good. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I was just making sure.
Yeah, no, we went through that comparison, and it was right around 11 fantasy points, not including any touchdowns scored. So I think there are other viable options. Curtis Samuel's been a hot hand, but he's also gotten in the end zone the past 3 weeks. I don't know if we can continue to rely on that. If you take out the touchdowns, his fantasy points are down drastically. It's not a Courtland Sutton situation where we can almost rely on that touchdown to come. I don't know how comfortable I am in a championship week.
I'm going to go as far to say is I think the Commanders in this matchup, kind of like how we were looking at the Chargers, there's really no reason to force any of these guys into
I agree.
lineup.
I agree with that.
I think the only guy I'd be really Scary Terry and Curtis Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's if you're in that position. You have guys injured. But we're getting Reek back. Michael Pittman's playing. Jamar Chase is out. But,
yeah.
I
agree with that. In case of an injury,
bring them into my lineup.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But enough on the Commanders. To go to the Jets, this will be very easy. The Commanders are dead last against the pass, giving up 265 yards. I do not expect Trevor Siemian to absolutely light them up. They're also 21st against the run, giving up basically 120 yards. The Jets are the Jets. We start Breece Hall. He can make plays happen. And like Schiff said, if there's a lot of dump-offs and things like that, Breece is a guy you just got to get the ball in his hands, and he will make it happen. The same with Garrett Wilson. The Jets, fair to them. I guess recently Breece hasn't been getting too much, but this is a perfect week for him too. You get the ball to Breece, you get it to Garrett Wilson. The Jets at least seem to have that figured out at the very least. You start both those guys. It's as simple as that. But that's really it from this one. This could be an ugly matchup, dude. That's a very ugly matchup right there.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
It could be one of the worst.
Yeah.
But it could be one of those surprising ones where there's 50 points scored for absolutely no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I genuinely think the Jets' defense is a good start this week. Just without a real true threat as a downhill runner. You take away Brian Robinson, who's very good. And Chris Rodriguez is capable. Antonio Gibson's capable. But, it's not any kind of threat that's the Washington Commanders have been airing it out this year. That's what they've been kind of better at. And the Jets can just take that away and force turnovers. I think Sam Howell's thrown the most interceptions in the league.
He gets sacked like crazy.
Plays right into their hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe the Jets' defense, despite coming off a rough, last one in Miami, they had a punt block return for a touchdown. There was a pick, so on and so forth. Things were just ugly from jump. There was nothing that their defense could have done in that game.
Yeah.
So I think this one will be much better. I think they're a good start.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But with that, on to my last morning game, I have Seattle going into Tennessee to play the Titans. Titans are a very weird team.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see them with their heroics against the Dolphins. Then they come out and lose to Case Keenum.
Yep.
I don't know. the Titans' offense is the thing that puzzles me the most. And I mean, that's what I'm going to talk about first. Usually I talk about the away team first, but the Seahawks are fairly simple for me. The Titans is what's hard because, I want to say D-Hop should be a good start again this week, but I wanted to say that last week. They're going up against Houston, who has been not very good against the pass at all. It was to a point where it was like they couldn't do anything at all.
Yeah.
Like both teams were I mean, if you watch that game, they almost tied the damn game because throughout like the fourth quarter and overtime, nobody could do anything. They were just punting the ball back and forth. It was ridiculous. But I think Seattle is going to force them to have to move the ball more. And Seattle is not good against the run. And we know running the ball is what Tennessee wants to do, what they like to do, and what they're good at. So I think Derrick Henry, you and I have talked about what his relevance will be next year. And for what it's worth, this may very well be for most leagues and most people his last fantasy really relevant game. As at the level that he's been. The level that he's been. Because we've seen Zeke had a resurgence. We've seen so on and so forth. But, and I think he's playing. I do.
I agree.
Seahawks are giving up 127.3 yards on the ground. Houston's been good against the run. They stopped it. They were tough. I really do think he will have a good game.
I agree.
Every week before, I think the last 3 weeks before that, he'd gotten like 2 touchdowns a game or something. He'd been on fire. I think he gets back to that. Ty J. Spears, no, you're not starting. Should be no reason to go that deep if you're in the championship.
Yeah.
But I think D-Hop could be a good start. The Seahawks are giving up 236.4 yards through the air. Could be a good start. Not starting Levis, though.
No.
But that's really it for the Titans. It's like I said, it's something that it was so getting to the point of Derrick Henry's back. It's automatic. And then last week happened. Really not much to the fault of him. You can't really do anything as a running back if by the time the ball is in your hand, there's already somebody tackling you. And Derrick Henry was never the most elusive guy. The thing with him was once he gets going, he's very hard to stop. Well, if he can't get going, then doesn't. But that's really all for the Titans side of the ball. Not really looking at anybody else on that team, despite the various good performances from Chris Moore, from Westbrook-Ikhine. It's by the wayside. This is the championship. Yeah. Now, on to Seattle. Geno Smith is back. We are talking about a Tennessee pass defense giving up 226.4 yards per game, putting them at 21st in the league. We saw Drew Lock light it up against the Eagles last week in the most clutch moment. Honestly, I think Geno might. I think I might prefer Geno to maybe to Big Brownie, just because Geno has this full array of weapons.
Yeah.
And Browning's going to be without Jamar Chase in what is, obviously going to be a tough matchup. It's any AFC North matchups are going to be tough, regardless of how good or bad the teams are. So I think I might prefer Geno over some guys like that if he is available. People have dropped him because of the recent weeks with, him being questionable and not playing last week. Ken Walker, though, I think he will absolutely. I mean, we know how good the Eagles are against the run, right? We're kind of like that. Now they're giving up 112.9 per game, 17th in the league. I think Ken Walker's going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope I don't jinx him, but I think he's going to go crazy. I really do. Honest to God. I think DK's a start, obviously. I think Tyler Lockett's a start. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba's a start. At this point, why the hell not? I mean, we just saw they obviously trust him. That play that they called up for him to win the football game, they obviously trust the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously very good at what he does. Play him.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And that will be all. Derek, if you got anything left.
I got one more game, but yeah, nothing for that. I think that's...
So you do have something left.
Yes, one more game. The Packers at the Panthers. In this one, actually, I was going to say it should be fairly easy. Yeah, I feel like it's a little complicated. The Panthers are third against the pass, giving up 174 yards a game. They're 20th against the run, giving up 118. Christian Watson's out. A.J. Dillon's questionable. Dontavion Wicks is questionable. Jaden Reed's questionable. The Jordan Love start scares me a little bit just due to he has so many weapons that are questionable for this game. Again, I think this is a game the Packers can win without scoring too many points. The Panthers' offense is, we've talked about it, bottom tier in every single category. It just has not been good. Going to Aaron Jones, yeah, A.J. Dillon's questionable with that thumb. If A.J. Dillon does not go, I don't love the Aaron Jones start, even with the Panthers not being great against the run, but I do like it more. If A.J. Dillon plays, I don't know if we can roll Aaron Jones. I just don't know how much volume they're going to give him compared to Patrick Taylor and A.J. Dillon. We saw it last week. Aaron Jones didn't top 50% snap share with A.J. Dillon missing. So if he plays, I can't see a world where he does top that. Jaden Reed, if he plays, is an absolute start, in my opinion. Jaden Reed is electric.
Oh, yeah.
Schiff's mentioned it. They will find plethora of ways to get this man the ball, whether it's running it, where it's screens, whether just every way they will find ways to get him the ball. Jaden Reed is a smash start. I'm not trusting Romeo Doubs with my season on the line in a championship. Not trusting Dontavion Wicks. Really, my highest ceiling guy is Jaden Reed. Jordan Love, it's like, if all these guys end up playing, Jaden Reed plays, if Dontavion Wicks plays, and you've been rolling Jordan Love and you want to keep him in there, it is what it is. But proceed with caution because, again, the Panthers don't give up too many yards in the air.
No.
Granted.
You know, it's crazy thinking about the progression of the Green Bay Packers receivers. Last year, it was like, it was Romeo Doubs. Saying Romeo Doubs is the guy. Through the first little part of the season, it was Romeo Doubs. And then it was Christian Watson. Christian Watson is... And then now it's the rookie again.
Jaden Reed.
It's like, oh my God. Is somebody going to... Is it going to be Jaden Reed? For the next few years, who's it going to be?
Yeah. If honestly, they're all banged up. Christian Watson the most through his career so far. If their weapons can stay healthy, though, especially like next year, they have talent on that receiving end. They have crazy young talent. So it is exciting if you're a Packers fan.
Who's going to be the guy?
Dude, I have no clue. I have
I'm
absolutely
wondering if it's
no
really
clue.
going to be Jaden. I mean, maybe it will be Jaden through Jordan Love's first full year as a starter. He's been the guy most consistently playing.
Maybe it'll be Malik Heath.
Stop it.
Another rookie. But yeah, that's it for the Packers. The Panthers side's very easy for me. I like the Chuba Hubbard start because the Packers are 30th against the run, giving up 139 yards. Now, Jair Alexander is questionable. If he does not play, I don't absolutely hate the Adam Thielen start, but we've just seen the Packers' defense, no matter what these ratings say, is against the run or the pass, their defense is capable. They do have good players on that defensive end. The Panthers do not have too many great offensive weapons just yet. Mingo's still young. Bryce Young is not protected for
Bryce
anything.
Young is small.
He's like 5'9" and getting hit every single time he drops back. It's very tough to trust anything on that offense other than Chuba Hubbard. Again, if Jair Alexander does not go, that's something to monitor. I don't hate the Adam Thielen start if he does play. I think there are safer pivots. Like, again, if you're looking at flex plays, if Jaden Reed's a good to go, I love Jaden Reed over Adam Thielen. Like, those are just things like that. But, I mean, that's really it for the Panthers. Like Mingo, Miles Sanders, like these are just guys that, no, we're not doing it.
No, I mean, I think Chuba Hubbard's going to have a game.
He's going to have to. For if they want to even score points, he's going to have to. But yeah, no, I mean, he's been very efficient. The Packers are not good against the run.
No, that's what I mean. Packers.
Yeah, I have absolute faith in him. But that will do it for our morning episode. We will be back with our afternoon, our Sunday night, as well as our Christmas game previews. So stay tuned for that. Any questions, comments, or advice you may have or need, feel free to drop it in the comments. As always, we appreciate the support, and we will see you in the next one.